This will be an interesting format. Hey,
Yeah.
Megan.
Hey, everybody. I'm trying to get to where I can see you.
Hey, on.
Hey there.
Hey, Romeo. Romeo, you've got a look like a nice studio set up there, like your studio.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and it was about 10 people, and two or three of them, including and me, were wearing orange. So I was giving it a try today. See
Oh,
if anybody showed. So far, nobody. I'm the only oddball. Megan, where are you? You at your place?
Yeah, this is my casa.
See. How did all the storms, you've had so many storms. We've all had so many
Oh
storms
my
on.
God, have you had storms?
Yeah, then the world is coming.
You doing okay? You making out okay?
Oh yeah, the tornado storm, the one that I was under when I was on the phone with you, that one was
Yeah.
crazy, but I haven't been hit since then. So I was actually, like I said, y'all, I was on the phone talking to Carl and another speaker we were talking to, and I literally said, I gotta go, there's a tornado. And I felt like I was being a drama queen, but legit, it was right like half a mile
No.
away. It was there.
It's crazy. That thing stormed in like, one of those, for me anyways, I wasn't really aware that something was, something was earth shaking was coming, but there it came.
When was the big storm?
May 16th at 6
May 16th. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'm trying to figure out when was it that I was stuck there? Oh, good Lord. It was just um oh, I was there on the June the 11th. I got stuck. Storms prevented me from getting in, and then I couldn't get out on the 12th.
Yeah, how long did it take you to get out? Next day?
15 hours and the next day.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
was that from cancellations or the weather was just
The weather,
bad that
I think
long?
it was all of the above. I think it was, and I
Yeah.
don't think it was just you. It was Houston, it was Miami. So it was Houston first, then it was Miami, and all of that. And then something happened in the Northeast and everything just sort of collided. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeps it interesting.
And
Yeah.
we just had a couple days ago. I'm in Houston also, Meredith, 30 miles south of me.
Yeah.
And, storm surge. And, most of those coastal homes are built up on stilts, but still
Yeah.
water 8 or 10 feet high up on your stilts, over your driveway is not too comforting.
Right. Right.
I
Not
had
at all.
a really tough.
So anyways, good. So you went mute there.
David, we
Yes,
can't hear
David,
you,
you
my
went
friend.
mute there, buddy. There you go. Try now. Right.
But what he was saying was of such high value. Oh,
Well, listen, hey, I just want to say in right here at the beginning, like I do have your introduction, Meredith, if that's something you'd like me to do, or
I'd say, well, let's just, we're here, we're virtual, let's have a conversation.
yes, right on. Right on.
Yeah, we have a lot of announcements for everybody too. And
Right.
so normally they should be here by about 1 o'clock. Normally our 12:30 to 1 is like talking and networking, just like we're doing here. So we'll probably get more people as we get closer to 1.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I thought I had us down from the invite said 12:30 to 1:30 on my, on mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you?
Happy to adjust. We just have some announcements so we can do
Great.
that. But I just want to make sure you have an audience as well as people come in
Okay.
at 1. Normally our meetings do that. Tisha, anything you want to share or anything you'd like us to shape the meeting today with?
Good afternoon, everyone. I will need to jump off at 1 because I do have a 1 o'clock meeting. Meredith, thank you for being a part of today's meeting. And as always, I am looking forward to a great meeting. I will watch the replay more than likely as everybody comes in and settles in. Just want to also say that this is the last meeting as program director, and it has indeed been a pleasure. My hope is that everyone has taken away golden nuggets from all the amazing speakers that we have, and can't think of a better way to end it with Meredith. So just wanted to share that, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome, Tisha. Wow.
Look how elated she looks to not be the program chair anymore, right?
No,
Are you
actually,
going
it
out
has
there?
been amazing. It's been an opportunity to meet great speakers like yourself that I aspire to be. So it has definitely been a blessing. It has been a real blessing to have that opportunity to work with some of the top speakers in NSA, which is an amazing organization. So definitely has been a pleasure. And thank you to my chapter for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you.
I'd
job.
love to know who everybody is and how long you've been in NSA and all that great stuff.
Yeah,
And I'd love to know some of your biggest questions around succession planning.
Oh, that's very timely. Yes.
yeah. Okay, Meredith, can I bend, because I've seen you in action.
Okay.
I know you have the ability to think on your feet.
Yeah.
If I could, when I'm looking at the group that we have here, as you introduce yourself to Meredith, she's asked a question about succession planning. We're thinking about sort of the next phase of your journey. But if you could also, if there was a topic that you're wrestling within your business today.
Great idea.
Because I'm looking at our group of people. We have Meredith, and most of the people I'm looking at are solopreneurs. So unless there's a definition you want to put around succession planning to kind of
I'll answer anything you want me to answer about the and just a quick little backstory on me. Understand, I came into the National Speakers Association in 2009. I was probably the worst speaker ever put on the planet. I was barely eking a living in a business, let alone as a speaker. I sit here today in 2024. I'm $1 million speaker. I'm a Hall of Fame speaker. I do 80+ keynotes a year and chair the National Speakers Association. I share that with you because you cannot be in a worse position than where I started. I win as the lowest worst out there. I have made every mistake in the book. And I have learned a lot along the way. So if there's anything that you want to know about going from where you are to where you want to be, whatever that definition is, we can talk about anything you want to talk about today. I mean, I'm so conscious of the fact that what you're giving me is time. If you could walk away from this meeting with one nugget that helps you move your business forward, then it has been a good use of your time. So I am an open book. So great segue to that. Yeah, don't hold it to succession planning.
I like that. I think it's good with our group, and because as speakers, we have to be able to think on our feet, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The request is as you introduce yourself, is everybody have one topic, one thought, and as you throw it there, she'll jot a note down, and she's going to help us as we facilitate, and I'll try to help you with also Meredith in the form of Q&A, and we're going to make this work because this is about being pliable and flexible.
That's right.
And because that's what happens. I mean, it's I still remember Jim Jacobus talking about going into a place and giving a talk, and literally somebody had a heart attack on the front row.
Yeah.
And had to go in, and it sucked out 45 minutes of his keynote, and they said, okay, you have 15 minutes now. And he had to totally redraft what he was doing. And so that's just kind of life and life and things. So
Mike, I echo that. Jean Riggs, who was, I think, the district director, I can't remember the exact title for Toastmasters, and I adopted her saying and have lived it out, is blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. Blessed are
Well
the
said.
for they shall
Well
not be
said.
bent out of shape.
Yeah.
So yes.
I love it, then. So let's use it. Let's use this time. I don't mean to be.
I think it's a great use of time.
All right. So Meredith, My name is Beth Rohani. Nice to have you. We're really excited. And I am this year on the board and director of marketing. I am a business owner here in the Houston and Dallas Fort Worth area. I've a moving company that I've owned since 2000. And just recently bought my mom's company out in Dallas. And so I'm merging the two brands together. But definitely entrepreneurship is something that wasn't what I was looking to do. It was something, that just kind of happened in life. I was a communication journalism major and I was working at the Fox affiliate here as an assignments editor. And it just happened that the business opened and we were looking for a way to earn extra money for books and tuition. And it just developed over the years. And as business owners, you just gradually learn as you go. And Einstein said it best, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I learned that early on. So one of the strategies with business was problem solving and finding solutions to the problems so they don't happen over and over again, and continuously improving to the point where you have built a business that has the standard operating procedures and fundamentals in place to where you can elevate by delegating and then be able to scale it to where you can have an exit strategy. And now after 20 something years, I'm kind of at a point of thinking about what's the next chapter of legacy that my company leaves behind, because I don't have any kids. And I'm now divorced, and, I independently own these two businesses that I've worked so hard for. And so, what is the exit strategy? Is it that you sell it? Is it that you pass it on? Who do you pass it on? How do you get to that point? And so a lot of this conversation now that I'm realizing as professionals in the speaking business is not just necessarily getting up on stage and talking. It's actually treating it like a business to where you can scale it and you can be a multi-million-dollar speaker. And so how do you get yourself there, I think, is a lot of the questions, that go along the journey. And so your influence here today will definitely, I think, will be inspiring and helping us see that pathway.
Nice, great. That's a wonderful position to be in.
Yes, it definitely is.
All right, who's next?
I'll speak up. My name is David Bell. I'm here in Houston. I was a long-term Toastmaster for about 30 years plus. And this last year, I peeked out the window and I saw NSA and I'm like, I think I can graduate or at least, start a new journey. And so I started that journey this year with NSA and have had a lot of fun with it. In terms of succession planning, a lot of the work I've done, both in corporate and in association management, so to speak, or nonprofit work, whether it be in the church or the Association for Talent Development or wherever, I've always felt like whatever role I have, even if I was the Zoom master for the day, I should have someone else that I'm preparing to take on that role. And so that's what comes to mind for succession planning.
Yeah.
For me now in the speaking business, the biggest challenge is, am I a coach? My workshop facilitator, and my speaker. And I find myself really scattered. So having a strategy to, bring those things together is something that would be helpful.
Nice, great.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Hi, I'm Lillian Howard, and it's wonderful to have you here today because it's a topic that's near and dear to me. I've been in NSA. I'm in both.
Yeah.
I've been in NSA since last year and just having a lot of fun, and met some great people, had some great opportunities here. And so in my work that I've done in succession planning before, when I was in the workplace, I see.
Oops. I lost her. Did you guys lose her?
Yeah, we said
Okay.
I think we're having some trouble with the Zoom links today, so we'll see.
Yeah, a lot of freezing.
Yeah.
She's back.
She's back.
Okay. When I did succession planning work or proposed succession planning work when I was in the workplace, it wasn't readily embraced. And I see succession planning as such a missed opportunity in environment. It's preparing the next generation. It's preparing the person who is going to leave either voluntarily or involuntarily, being prepared to continue to hit the ground running as you prepare for that new recruit. So today, I'm really interested in how different succession planning looks from your perspective when I was back in the workplace. What's changed? How are people embracing it? How can we get people to see it as a necessary tool and perspective or commitment in the workplace, because it is a necessary commitment.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know. I just want to know your perspective on it and see what I can take out into the workplace, into my clients' workplace, use it and get and convince them that it's a good idea.
Nice.
Hey, Carmen, why don't you dive in?
Sure. I was trying to find the control down here. I'm Carmen Landrau. I am also in Houston, and I've been in NSA since last, speaking for about 7 years now. I speak on women's empowerment, and I work with organizations that who want to retain women in the workforce and promote them to executive levels. So, and my background is I'm a cardiologist.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if I had that heart attack, I would have found a way to make it interesting for everybody.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen, Mike. So, so yeah, I'm a professional speaker, and I've always been interested in wanting to get away from the feast or famine cycle. You know, it's interesting how you say we could not be worse than where you were when you started. But is that and you get another maybe sometime down the line? So I would like to make it more consistent. And if there is something from this point on, you were able to move ahead forward, that would be very helpful. That's my question.
Right. Okay.
Leah, you want to dive in? I see you leaning forward like she's about to say something important here. So
I was leaning forward to hit that unmute. Yes, I was. Thank you so much, Mike, for putting me on the spot. That's what we do here, right? I love it. I'm pleased to be here with NSA today. It's my first time connecting with this network, so I'm extremely pleased. I'm here in Houston, Texas, so had every intention of being present at the live meeting. But definitely appreciate this alternative because I was double booked.
Oh, nice.
And with that being said, I will probably get off at about 1:15 for a 2:00 interview that's also going to be streaming live. And then hopefully I can jump back on if we're still active around 3:00. That's my plan. So when y'all see me dip out, that's why, and then I'll be back. Currently am a business owner here in Houston, Texas. Am exploring the landscape of global real estate investing through Airbnb, looking at a spot in Nigeria as well as condos in the Dominican Republic. So those are my newest ventures. Desire to share with the world the journey of W-2ing and transferring from the W-2 world into the 1099 world. I'm an educator by profession, science major by credentials, and I've had the opportunity to train many people in both the education world and across the industry lines. My biggest push now is training others on how to develop, disseminate, and deliver effective content using teacher methodology and pedagogy's best practices so that learners that are visual, kinesthetic, or auditory adults are able to receive and understand the wah that might come in a HR training or in a oil and gas training. And it's not that the content is not important, it's that the delivery is ineffective. And so wanting to work closely with corporations to either deliver and disseminate their content for them or train them on ways to identify the room and the learners and assist with that process. And several tentacles are reaching out from that work. And I'm extremely excited about it. And layering that with now branding my Vicious Visions and Leah Speaks to a whole nother level. And ideally, all of what I just said being a part of those conversations as I assist other people with coming to a place of freedom and entrepreneurship. And as far as succession planning, two things come to mind: affiliate marketing and building the mindset around entrepreneurship as an option for high school graduates and teaching them the true process of owning a business, not just going out there and becoming a rapper or a basketball star, but let's do your business plan in your senior year. Let's look at a true product and assist you. Make sure you have an LLC, which you can earn early. You can establish very early, and then teach that process to young entrepreneurs, have them connected already with internships and incubation systems that will help them, and know that entrepreneurship is just like a trade, and college and the military is a true option for building their wealth young and directly out of high school.
Nice.
Super. Great. Thank you, Leah. And so now our speaker has finally shown up here. So thank you for joining us for today's program. Michael Andrade is our speaker today. So Michael, take over. Well, maybe that's not really true, Michael. We're just introducing ourselves to Meredith, so it's okay. Lower your
so glad to be here. So glad to be here today. I'm going to start with these 3 important things that you need to know. Just kidding. Sorry, I'm late.
No, you're not late. You're perfectly on time.
Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself to Meredith?
Hey, Meredith. Name is Mike Andrew. I'm in the Houston area. So sorry that we're not in the 3-dimensional presence, but it's a blessing to be able to be in your presence. I have been a part of NSA for almost a year.
Nice.
I joined along with David Bell. We're fellow Toastmasters. And for me, I just love the speaking bug, and I want to see what I can do to help others achieve their outcome. So listening to Leah, it sounds like she has a desire to help youth achieve an outcome. I think we're all in that same boat of wanting to figure out exactly what it is that we can do to help others. So I do help businesses, though, with empowering their employees. And so when you're learning about what you're saying about how to actively recruit and hire folks, I'm on the benefit side. And so part of the whole reward system, it's figuring out what we can do to allow benefits to be a part of that overall equation. Because as you know, people don't join a firm for benefits, but they definitely will leave if it's part of compensation plan. So very excited to hear you speak, and looking forward to getting some outcomes that are precious gems that we're all here for.
Nice.
Awesome. Saying Romeo, I see your camera got back on here. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi all. Sorry, I had to be off a little bit. First, I'm so excited to be here today, and looking forward to hear you, Meredith. I'm a clarity coach. And I help people just to get unstuck. I've been with the NSA Houston chapter like a year ago. I joined, and I'm still enjoying this all the time. And so basically, sorry I missed most of you because I had to jump on a call, urgent call, so I just got distracted a little bit. So I don't know what else I'm going to be doing here. So
cool. We're trying to get everybody heard a feel for what we've got here. And also Meredith, Romeo, and Carmen are members of our Speakers Academy this year.
Nice, great.
So we'll be graduating that, ending that cycle next month. So it's been fun to get. I'm trying to think of who else you might not have met. I'll throw, I know you and I have met
Yeah,
at NSA. We've crossed paths as, as you do along the, hey, how you doing? And shake hands.
yeah, exactly. All that good stuff.
But I'm I've been a member of the NSA chapter, Houston chapter now since I think it was 06. First time I went to an NSA event was the Influence in New York when it was on Times Square, and with as I say, with about 1,500 keynote speakers. And I said next year they need to bring some listeners into the room.
No kidding, right?
The energy was
Speakers are a mess.
The energy within the room was crazy. So I'm blessed to serve on the board as past president this year. And it's NSA is truly the reason I am a full-time, what we call professional speaker today, is because of walking into that room and starting the journey coming down and being a part of the Houston Association, Houston chapter. It literally has shaped my understanding of the business of speaking. And if I'm going to throw a question, has in here, is I have a virtual assistant, went from part-time to now full-time. I just made that decision this week, and I now need to learn how to let go and turn loose. And I think I need to buy Beth's lunch because, she's got a team of people that are.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know I've got to go through some mindset shifts in that area. And when I think of succession and think of scaling, that's where it comes into play for me.
Nice.
I'm going to flip it back over to you now, Megan, for any, so you can answer the question, unless you and Meredith were already talking before I got on, I don't know. But it's a heck of a journey. So thanks for being a part of us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. So Meredith, my name is Megan, and I've been serving the director as the director of membership, and then also as the president-elect. So very excited to work with our chapter. We have so many talented people. We get to learn with them all the time and put their great ideas to work. I am I guess so you could say I come out of the training and development world. So I'm a trainer, speaker, and a coach. And so I blend all of those together to meet clients' needs. And what I find that I usually is my niche is people that are in transition. Those chewy questions of I don't know what to do with life or my career or what to, promotions. It's just this cloud of ambiguity that I like to, I don't know, I see potential in it. So it's not scary to me. So I find that I work really well in those groups. And then I'll mirror everything everybody else has said about succession planning. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, it's a big part of leadership development. And so I work a lot in that area. So happy to learn and add more tools to my toolkit to help other clients.
Yeah. Go ahead. Were you gonna jump in, Carl? Or did I misinterpret
I'm sorry,
that?
I cleared my throat.
Oh, okay. All right. No problem. I want to just answer a couple of questions that I've heard today. David, the one that you threw out there is kind of near and dear to my heart, is that I'm confused as to everything's kind of meshing together. And, am I a coach? Am I a speaker? Am I a this or that? And, for years, I identified myself as a keynote speaker. And what I ended up doing was finding that was limiting. And I think one of the smartest things that I did in my business, and I don't care what any of you do for a living, but your business should be driven by what you're doing to serve people. And then you have different ways that they digest you. And so I don't really care if I do more coaching in 2024 than I do more speaking, or I do more strategic plans. I mean, you can use me as a coach. You can hire me as a keynote speaker. You can hire me as a strategic planner. You can hire me as a workshop leader. What I am trying to do, my mission in life, is to help people learn to turn uncertainty to competitive advantage. And the way that I found that, and somebody else mentioned this, was that I just spent a long time really listening to my customer base. The way I build my business is by listening to what are the problems that the community that I serve are having and they can't solve. And then I solve that problem. And then I provide different ways that people can digest me to solve those problems. And so I think, David, if you let go of worrying who you are, because nobody cares whether I'm a coach, nobody cares whether I'm a speaker, they just care whether I help them. That's all they care about. And Leah doesn't care if I helped her from an audience, and Mike doesn't care if I helped him one-to-one. People have got to do what's comfortable for them. And so that kind of mindset really, really helped me. Then the question about corporate succession planning is a funny thing when it comes to entrepreneurs, because unless you have a business that you're scaling, that, you know, you're probably like Beth and her mother is transitioning the business, or you're absorbing the business. That's very unusual in our business, because most of us are just going to one day go, I'm too freaking old to get on a plane anymore. I don't want to do this. So our transition plan is going to be, at that point, I'm just going to coach or whatever. So a couple of things that I want to answer around what you've said is, where does succession planning stand in corporate America today as it relates to you helping your clients in the work that you do, whether it's speaking, whether it's consulting, whether it's coaching, leadership development, or training? The only competitive advantage that I believe organizations have left today, the only thing that is not become a commodity, is succession planning. And how succession planning has changed is that succession planning is often thought as a C-suite endeavor. It is something that you do at the C-suite. Like if I worked in Beth's company, we would only be thinking about succession planning as it relates to replacing Beth. Wrong. Succession planning is throughout the culture of the organization. We need to think about succession planning the way the military thought about succession planning. And the way that the military thinks about succession planning, if I am the lowest level in the military, the moment that I take that role, I am immediately told I have to train my successor, because I can't move on, because in 3 to 6 months, they're going to move me into a different position. And that person has to be ready to take that position. So what I teach and what I talk about is a culture of succession. So let's talk about that as it relates to every single business out there. Let's talk about that as it relates to the National Speakers Association in the Houston chapter. That means that the moment that somebody moves into the position of program director, they are immediately starting to think about who is going to take my place as program director when I move out, and what do I need to train them to know and understand, and what are some tasks that I can delegate to them to get comfortable. So you're constantly thinking in a mindset of getting ready for the person to move in next, so that everybody's always in a position of training and development. So when I go into organizations and I teach succession planning, the first thing I say is, we're not just going to do this at the C-suite. We're going to do it at every single level of the organization. And we're going to create a culture of succession planning. Now, I want to talk more about that in a moment, but what does succession planning mean for us? And you guys said it a little bit, is, first of all, if anything happened to me, my business probably isn't going to continue. You know, it's why I've had to shore myself up in other ways, because I am the business. If you are not the business, if you are not the business, then you need to be training 1 or 2 other people in your organization to do your duties and be ready to assume your position. And so, so it is, succession planning isn't something we do once we're making a decision to make a shift. It is something that you start right now. I mean, Beth, you look young to me. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 47.
47. You look amazing. I would have guessed you were 32.
Thank you.
But anyway, but let's assume Beth is 32 years old. I would, if I were working with her right now, I would say we have got to find your successor, and we've got to start to train that person up. Now, here's the thing about succession, is that you have to have the right people for succession. And so what I say when I come into an organization is, before you start to build a succession plan, you have to build your avatar, the ideal person that makes it in your organization and is the right fit for your organization. And I literally have my clients create their avatar. We write down the top 10 employees they have in the company and the characteristics of those top 10 employees. You know, I just did one for a client this past week. And in fact, I wonder if I can pull up their avatar. Let me look at it. But it is, I'm gonna pull it up because it's really good. We built that avatar. Well, I'm looking for that. Does anybody have any questions on anything I've rolled out so far?
I guess I can add, while you're looking for that, Meredith, you know, in terms of where I'm at in figuring out my business, is you have to have, like Meredith said, the right person in the right seat. And there's actually a formula that you can take to be able to identify that through a entrepreneurial operating system that we use called EOS.
Oh, yeah.
And with EOS, it defines to be able to figure out the right person, they have to meet your company's core values. And so really sitting down and identifying what is your mission, what's your vision, what are your core values? Because once you identify your core values, then you can find individuals that are aligned with those core values. And at that point, if that person, let's say you have 5 defined core values, meets your baseline, and my baseline is 4 out of my 5 core values, which for my company, we have innovative thinking, communication, grit, integrity, and accountability. If someone's out of line with what they do on a day-to-day basis, their actions, their behaviors, their word, what they say, then they might not be the right person. And then to be in the right seat, there's 3 components. You have to get it, you have to want it, and you have to have the capacity to do it. And if one of those elements is missing, then that is probably not the person that's in the right seat. And you technically have to have all 3 of them, because you can get it, you can want it, but if you don't have the capacity to do it, then you're not in the right seat. Or you could have the capacity to do it and you can get it, but maybe you don't want it. And that's kind of the person in my sales seat right now. They have the capacity, they get it, but they just don't want to be in that seat. And so ultimately, they're not going to thrive in that position. So really identifying your company's culture and where you can relate, because we're people of words. And so we can articulate our core values pretty easily, and really putting those as your pillars of guidance of how you structure your culture starts building the team that's like-minded around that.
Yeah, you've got to start. Culture is, you can't attract employees until you have the right culture. And culture is made up of 3 things. It's made up of purpose, which is your vision, your mission, and your values. Everybody should be aligned with your values. If you want to drive profitability in your organization, align your customers to your values. Because if your customers do not align to your values, that is where the drama is coming in. It's ownership. Ownership is the second piece. If you want to develop a succession plan, you want to train individuals in your organization, you've got to learn to lead through the power of the question. And what I mean by that is that the best succession plan you can ever have is not to teach people to do a job. It is to teach people to think. And the only way that you teach people to think is to stop solving their problems. Who was I talking into that just, Mike, you just brought your VA on full time, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a scary proposition, correct? And so you've got to think of the duties that you want to delegate. And the way that we determine the duties that you want to delegate is write down everything that you do and then determine which ones are revenue producing. And of those revenue producing, what are the only ones that you can do? Because here's the way business works. I am assuming that for most of us, you are like me. The person who makes the most money for my business is me. My business is really, really profitable the more I am in front of a client, whether that means a sales call or whether that means on a stage or in a workshop doing something like that. That is how we produce revenue. That means for any task that I am doing that is not customer focused, I might as well be putting money in a trash can, right? Because I'm losing money because I'm not producing revenue. So the way that we learn to delegate to people is to decide what tasks are not revenue producing and which of those do I not have to do. And what do I mean by not have to do? It doesn't matter if they're not done to my standards. And that's where you've got to kind of get in your in your head. You know, it's not that you really lower your standards, but when I started delegating my newsletter, it didn't come out like I really, really wanted it to. But rather than fix the newsletter, I just kept telling my assistant what I didn't like about it and having her redo it and redo it and redo it and redo it until she got it right. And from that process, she took ownership of the task, but she learned what is important to me and my brand in my organization. Now, I can try to teach that, but that is a waste of my time and my energy. It is done through the power of the question. How many of you are like me? I mean, I'm 60 years old, and when I was raised, if you went to my mother and you asked her anything, she would say, "I think you should look that up in the encyclopedia, and then come back and tell me what you found." Anybody else have a mother like that? Right? Like, no matter what, you had to go figure it out yourself, and then come back and tell her. You might have it all wrong, and she might correct you at that point. But the point was, she taught you to solve problems, to think, and to look for. And you've got to understand that when you delegate tasks, the worst thing you can do is then to solve the task without forcing them to figure it out. The best succession plan you will ever have is to teach the people around you to think. Because then you can figure out if they have, to Beth's point, maybe they just don't have the capacity to do it. Like, I let one assistant go who, I don't care how many times I told her to redo it. It was awful. The one I have now, she is flipping phenomenal. She thinks better than I do, but she didn't start there, and we kind of had to get those pieces out. But she picks up immediately when I don't like something and I want her to redo it. She gets it. But you really can't get those places. But you've really got to get in your head when you are an entrepreneur. This is about producing revenue. I mean, really, most businesses shut because they're not producing enough cash flow. And if you're the only person who can really produce cash flow, you may want to find other people that can produce cash flow, but keeping you to the highest and best use of your time is critical. The last piece of culture is accountability and support. Mike, the moment that you believe you have been clear about your expectations to your assistant, you're just getting started being clear on your expectations of your assistant. Everybody who works for you should know the top 5 things that you expect of them every single week. And the reason I say top 5 is because we give the people that work for us a job description. What is the last line on every job description?
Duties as assigned.
Exactly. So that means that every day that I come to work for Mike as Mike's assistant, I am going to look at everything that Mike has given me to do. And I'm going to have to make decisions all day long as to what's going to get done and what's going to have to wait. What do you think the chances are, left to my own devices, I will choose the same priorities that Mike chooses? Slim to none. 67% of the reasons we get frustrated with people, 67% of the reasons we want to fire people that work for us is because they don't understand what was expected of us, of them. And so you want to sit down, like with my assistant, number 1 is she's got to keep my email box clean. I don't care what else is going on in the day. Anybody contacts me about work, she has got to be on that like white on rice immediately. That is her number 1 priority. Number 2, she's got to get my newsletter and my other marketing out every single week. I don't ever want an excuse as to why it didn't go out on the day and time that it was supposed to go out. Number 3, my travel has to be done, and it has to be triple checked, and she has to have met with that meeting planner and ensure that everything on there is right, including my speaking time, including the distance to the airport, including what time I'm supposed to be down there for sound check. I mean, but she is really clear. I give her a million other things to do, but she knows the top 5 things that are most important to me every single week. So you've got to get really clear on that. And then the support and the accountability is people want to be in cultures where they're held accountable, and then where they're given the training or support that they need to do a better job. I'll give you a quick example of that. My social media person and my website person, phenomenal people. They're unfreaking believable. But I just met with Ford Sakes on some sales strategies that I want to take my business to the next level. And I've got a couple of things that could be better in both of those arenas, a couple of things that I'm missing. So I just set up a session for them with Ford for Ford to do a little bit of training for them. So I'm holding them accountable to have my marketing at the highest level, but I'm providing them the support and the training that they may need for a couple of things that they've missed. So to Beth's point, you have got to get the culture. Anybody who works for me understands we are on a mission in life to turn uncertainty to competitive advantage. We want the world to believe that the disruptions they are facing, beyond those, are their greatest opportunities. And our values are own it. Our values are to be relentless. Like anybody who comes to work for me, I interview them according to their values. When I do their performance reviews at the end of the year, I do it according to the values. Every decision we make has to align with our values. Our values run our business. Any new person we bring into the fold has got to align with those values. Then there's ownership. I do everything. When we have meetings, I do everything through the power of the question. I'm constantly teaching the people that work for me to think. I am also relying on them to do what they are better at. When my sales aren't good enough, I say sales are down this month. What do we need to do to drive sales? So they feel that almost like I'm working for them. And then the last piece is I'm very clear on what I'm holding them accountable to do, and I provide them the support and the updates. But if you don't do what I've told you to do, you can't stay on my team. I don't have a weak link. And that's really, really important, because if I'm a star player and I'm working next to Mike, nothing personal, Mike, and Mike's a weak link, I'm going to get up and leave that organization. So until you have something that people want to be a part of, you're not even at the point of succession planning. But once you have that culture, then you build your avatar. And an avatar is as simple as saying, Leah, if you could describe the top person that you want to come to work for you, if I were going to go pluck somebody out and put them to work in your business, tell me 5 attributes you would want them to have, 5 things that you would want them to be. What is the person who really makes it in your organization? So I just did it with a company that we're really having trouble getting the right talent through the door. They can hire all day long, but finding the people who can ascend to leadership is a problem. And so we built this avatar, relentless curiosity. It's got to be somebody who's got a committed desire to understand root cause and how things work at the ground level. They've got to be entrepreneurial. This is a huge corporation, but they've got to see opportunity, willing to take a risk, and has a bias to action. They've got to be committed to people development. They've got a passion and a desire to develop talent, and they get off on watching people do really well. They've got to be strategic, making decisions and taking action with a vision of how it will impact and enhance the greater good of the company. And they've got to be confidently humble. Freely admit knowledge gaps, ask others with value-added skills for help and support, and seek out feedback and input and areas and room for improvement. Now, what happens to that avatar? Every single interview we do with a candidate, we're looking at skills, we're looking at experience, but we've designed questions around that avatar. And that avatar then becomes a criteria for advancement. Nobody ascends into a leadership position unless they can come in and show us how they have aligned to that avatar. And so the criteria for advancement aligned with the avatar, everybody in the organization has a copy of who the avatar is. And the reason they have a copy of who the avatar is because I want everybody in the organization to be empowered to ascend to a leadership position. So what does this mean for NSA Houston? I want you to take your top 5 best presidents, 5 best presidents you've ever had, and write all the attributes down around them. And what you'll do is you'll find themes. You'll figure out the avatar from that. And then every person who joins NSA Houston, you say, we ultimately want you in a leadership position. This is who we're looking for. This is who we're looking for to become a leader of NSA. This is who we're looking to become a member of our board, so that everybody now understands how they can move into a leadership position. So what you don't want succession to be is, I think Michael's really great, so I'll put Michael into the next leadership position. Not that Michael isn't really great, but Michael and I play golf together, so I think he's really great. And the truth is, maybe he gets in there and doesn't have any leadership attributes. I want to be watching people exhibit these attributes, so I get to pluck the best of the best to move into this position. We developed a membership avatar for National Speakers Association. And I've shared that with the CPAEs. I've shared it with the CSPs. I've shared it with the $1 million speakers. I've shared it with the past presidents and said, if you see this person out there speaking, I want this person to be a member of the National Speakers Association. So those are kind of my thoughts. I am so sorry. I really thought this meeting was only an hour, so I'm getting close to time when I'm going to need to leave you. But here's the good news is I'm going to be down there in person in October. And anybody who wants to have dinner or do anything, we can have an impromptu, meet up. But I want to open it up at this point is, in all honesty, understand my key points are understand that succession is a culture. It is something that you do all the time. Do not wait until you, I love NSA costume party. Do not wait until you need people. Develop that avatar and make it part of onboarding members. Help people see the path to ascend to leadership at the National Speakers Association. The number one complaint I get about NSA is people feel like it's a clique and they cannot find their way in to the association. We're trying to solve that at the national level, but people feel it the moment they come into a chapter. And the reason is because, oh my God, we are like on steroids when we talk. It's like I walk in and I see Carl and we get into this great big conversation and nobody feels like they can break in. And God help the speaker that comes in that's a little bit shy, right? Like you're done, you're toast because we're so overwhelming. So I find the criteria for advancement as a way to say, here's the path. This is all you need to do is to exhibit these things and you will ascend to leadership. The last thing I'm going to say is this is why leadership matters. Thank God for chapters. I would not be sitting where I am if not for the national chapter of the Carolinas chapter. I walked in to speaking. I had no idea what it is. I had no idea what it was about. I learned everything in that chapter, and that chapter put me to the national piece. But I also rolled up my sleeves and got to work from a leadership perspective. And that's how I got connected. That's how I met friends. That's how I found my mastermind. That's how I found the things that I needed to find in order to become, in order to kind of find my speaking career. So of all the things I've ever done in my life, volunteering and being in a leadership position was probably my biggest ROI from what I've got now. I mean, at the national level, I think about the fact that, the access of the people that I have access to, I would never have access to had I not joined the board, had I not done the things that, that I've done. So don't think that taking leadership is sacrificing. It is, but it's also a great opportunity to access and really get what you need. So for that, I'll leave it there, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Meredith, you said something that's really important when talking about the VA that would want full time. That's my fourth attempt to a VA. And what happened was I had somebody, and it fits in line with what Beth was talking about, who had the difficult time being able to follow what I wanted from a priority standpoint. Here's the duties, and they had a tendency to drift over to what was most comfortable, what they were most interested in. And then the second one came in and had a very difficult time pushing me. And I needed somebody who could keep me on. And so I went through that. So it was an evolution. And so Betty now, who started working for me, just doing this, and then this, and then this. So I think that when we're looking at farming out fractional services, we need to align ourselves with people who fit the culture we're trying to build, even if they're just vendors.
The more that you think about, you really should be interviewing customers, you should be interviewing vendors. Everybody needs to align with your values. I always use the example of Chick-fil-A when I talk about it on stage. It took a lot of guts to be Chick-fil-A. You were not going to open on Sunday. Everybody told him he was absolutely crazy. And you know, I mean, think about that business model. You're going to pay for real estate, not be open 52 days a year. And despite the fact that Chick-fil-A has less locations than their closest competitor, they're closed 52 days a year. They're open 52 less days than the people they compete against. They just surpassed Starbucks as the second fastest growing fast food restaurant in the country. And when the media took them to task for their values, the lines went round the building. So if you want to find good employees, if you want to find good customers, put those values on your sleeve and live to those values and have them there as your North Star. And I think what's really good about values, kind of what you said, Mike, is that it forces you to go inside yourself. Like I had a VA who there were always reasons she couldn't get stuff done. And sometimes they were really legitimate. I don't care. Like my value is own it. The buck stops with you, baby. I give you something to do, get it done. Like I don't want to hear about it again. That's my problem. That's not the people that work for me problem. I need to make that very clear on the front end. You got to like an environment like that.
Right.
You know, and what I think values really force you to get clear on yourself.
Yep. And so I look at David Bell, who is solopreneur, moving from corporate America, stepping out. When we look at our businesses, we're not talking about just hiring people underneath us, around us. It's aligning ourselves with vendors who support us, who fit that and understand and really nurture that. Whenever you lock onto somebody who meets those expectations, you build a relationship with that person, and that is part of your business. And we have a tendency in this walk to be very isolated, to feel like it's just me here doing this, and it's not. It's anybody that you interact with that's a part of you providing your service. Everybody from, I've gone to 4 different FedEx stores. I now have the FedEx store that I use. Because that's the one, and that's the people I know that you know, but I had to look for them. So they're part of my business. They're part of my company now in my mind.
Yeah,
so I think
absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing you say as far as scaling it. So.
Very, very, very much. Always hire and always accept business from a place of power rather than a place of need. Now, I say that as somebody who has a successful business now. I mean, I'm going to be honest, when I was first starting out, I don't care what your values were, and I don't care if you're going to pay me $500 to clean your bathroom with a toothbrush. I was going to do it because I had to get started, right? I had to pay my bills first. But the moment you get up over the hump and you can pay your bills, you really do become and just because life is easier if you operate that way. Again, I would really like to see from a chapter standpoint what we're starting to do at National is getting really clear on the type of individual that we're looking for and making that path very open and very accessible to anybody who wants to ascend into a leadership position. It's like inclusive, but being very selective. Just because we gave you a criteria for advancement, if you don't exhibit those qualities, if you don't take the ownership of it, there isn't a place for you to move up in the organization.
Yep, I can see that then. So,
yeah.
Anybody have a question for Meredith before she has to jump off? All right. So then I'll change the question here. Is that give me 2 people who this has made you think about something as far as a step that you might want to take or something you want to go and ponder. Because, by the way, this is not a finger, it's a volunteer step.
Yeah. Maybe I haven't made anybody think about anything.
No, I'm looking at
Ask
Mike.
that question again, Mike.
That's right. Michael's going to answer the question. Michael's going to go, he's going to tell us what he's either thinking about or what he's going to do.
Oh, okay.
Did I bring clarity now, David?
Yes, thanks.
I'm sorry, I was speaking like somebody from Louisiana, so it's okay. Go ahead.
Right. So, David, the answer is listen to anybody named Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
You will be fantastic. That's just a real simple thing to remember. So for me, it was the concept of taking that avatar to another level and using the reference of military saying, look, even at the most basic level, I've got to have an understanding and a process of what next looks like for me, but then also have it's taking that tunnel vision and holding those blinders open a little bit more. And I think what that does is it makes you more acutely aware of one, you have a responsibility to move forward. But then also part of that responsibility is identifying those folks that could fill that role. And I think being intentional about that and having that level of understanding, I think that would be part of a culture.
Yeah.
And so for me, it would be that when you're working with organizations, a question that I would ask you is, what do you do when you have an organization that has, hey, we've got this great idea, great processes in place, but they need that moment of truth to kind of shake themselves to realize that maybe their culture really isn't aligned with what they have as their values in writing, and it's that gut punch that they might need to hear. How do you help companies with that?
Yeah, one of the number one things we do is we look at the metrics, is we look at the engagement scores, we look at the retention rates, we look at their ability to recruit and to retain. And the way I get a company to listen is I put the financials at that. Is the moment that I show them how much they're losing in when they lose employees, how much they're losing in their ability to retain, how many leadership positions that we have open that we've got to go out to the outside and recruit. And I lay it out there in really solid numbers. And I say, I can solve this problem for you, but we're going to need to look at the culture. It's really easy to define culture. It's really difficult to execute it. And because changes need to be made on there. But if I want corporate to listen, I put it in terms of money, because at the end of the day, if they're losing profit, they'll do anything I want them to do. And so I think it's really important when you're speaking to employees, it's about saying, I'm going to show you a path for yourself. This is how you're going to get forward, which is the number one reason millennials leave organizations, is not because they had to be CEO tomorrow. It's because they can't find the path to be CEO. And that is all the criteria for advancement, is saying, here's the path. It may take you 30 years, but here's the path. And that doesn't hold any, the CEO doesn't care that millennials want a path, but the CEO does care, and the CFO does care how much money this is costing them every year, and if I can close that gap. So anyway, I am so sorry. Oh, Carl, go ahead. I'll answer your question. Then I got to run. Oops, you're on mute.
Too many buttons to push.
Yeah.
Thanks, Meredith. I understand. So you just said something that piqued my interest. You said that defining culture is easy. You know, I find that having even conversations beyond just transactional tasks and deadlines be very challenging for some people. So tell me, how do you get into the culture aspect?
Yeah, because whether you have
maintain it.
So whether you have defined a culture or not, you have a culture. Everybody has a culture, whether it's been defined or not. And the way that the culture is really easy to define is we start with focus groups and we start with surveys. What do you think about the organization? What do you think are the biggest priorities? What do you think are the most important? What do you think this company really values? What do you think that we are saying to our customers and and often that is a very different message coming from the C-suite, coming from the employee base. So then I go back to the C-suite and I say, this is your culture, because this is what all culture is perception. I mean, it is what other people say about us. And but then the question becomes, what do you want your culture to be? And the moment they see what their culture is and what they want their culture to be, then the discussion is really easy to get there. Yeah.
I want to say this real quick, because I think it ties into, I just had a kind of a brain drop. So culture starts as perception and shifts through intention.
Completely, absolutely. And your point of how to execute is you have to be intentional about it. But the quick way that I'm going to say that the quick way that you have good intention around culture, and the way that you maintain culture, is you hold your leadership accountable to culture. Everything else will take care of itself. If you have one leader out of alignment with, I had a CEO say to me, we're militant about our leadership. And the reason is we want to protect our culture at all costs. And the way to protect your culture at all costs is to ensure that the leadership is in alignment.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I'll let you know when I'm coming down in October. I hope that I see some of you at Influence in Denver. If I can do anything to help you, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Super. Thanks, Meredith.
Bye.
Thank you.
Super. Romeo, you had your hand up. I don't know if you had a specific question for Meredith. You had an observation from today, what you gotten out of this.
Yeah, I had something to say about the culture thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, because I'm changing my whole culture somewhere, somehow, because where I come from is totally different from where I'm living now and how to act within the culture. But of course, keeping my own personal culture alive, which is the mix between both. So when she was talking about the culture, that made a lot of triggering a lot of things. And that's what I'm doing, is changing things, changing things a lot. Like the way I used to act, how things, because everything changed in this side of the world, changed in different
can
ways. So I
imagine.
have to adapt. I have to make a mind shift. I have to make new habits. I have to plus adapt and move on. So that's something that I was always thinking and taking notes about. Before going for an assistant, it's like what I should be doing, like building my own system first, then going for the assistant, because how I can delegate someone about things, task, or whatever to be done, while I'm still not building my own system that to be delegated,
Right. That's right.
So that's
You have
the
to have
thing.
systems and processes in place to be able to delegate to somebody else.
Yeah, it's just that by the way of thinking, then you move on by how you execute them, how to follow them, how to measure it, accountability, and then the output and all that stuff. So that's big. That's big.
This is definitely about the business of speaking, coaching, training, as opposed to platform skills. And I've been on a journey for the last couple of years because of the word culture. Trying to understand it's one of those words that really over the period of time has lost its meaning. And so I went in and said, okay, well, what does culture mean? And I love Meredith actually confirmed it again, because in talking with people across the United States, C-suite leaders, it boiled down to two things. And she hit this hard today. Culture is how people think within an organization, which is, notice that her survey they did is that she asked the question, how do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And the whole thing was around how the employees think. The second part about culture is, what do they do? Because that's how culture manifests, what Carl was talking about. That's how the culture gets manifested. So it's how the people think, and then what they do. Because if they think one way, but there's an action that's taking place elsewhere, the do part of the action affects the culture. So it's the think and the do, when those two things get married. Carl, let's go to Michael first here. Michael, saw your hand come up.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to point out a great reference to two companies in the same industry that have the same stated outcome, but their culture really just, you can see the elements of their culture in it. So have you ever been to MD Anderson or Methodist Hospital? They both have a version of the Disney approach. Like when you walk into these giant hospital systems and you look lost, they train their folks to recognize that. And their rule is, hey, if you're within 5 yards of somebody, you help them. Well, what happens at MD Anderson is they see you and they walk you to where you got to go. At Methodist, and hopefully nobody's with a Methodist, and I apologize if this is the case, but they see you and they'll actually walk around you, so they're not within that five yards. And so to me, it's an interesting display of, it's the same well-intended outcome, but culturally, I can almost promise that is a leadership problem.
That's the do that comes into it. Yeah, Carl.
I had two things I just wanted to throw together here. Interesting conversation about culture. What I see is that, companies build, they love their customers and they love their employees. And then once they're built and got comfortable and powerful, then they don't love their customers and employees as much. They love the boardroom. They love the stockholders. They shift their focus, and it's called in online companies. There's actually a word that's been coined recently called "enshittification." And that is when we all bought, I bought Amazon so that I could get, packages delivered free and free movies. Well, now they have free movies without advertising, or included movies without advertising. And now they have advertising. So now I'm paying for advertising, which I really, to me, is not the way to enjoy a movie. But the second thing I wanted to maybe shift here, Mike, and if you don't think, or if the group doesn't think it's real beneficial, then that's fine. We can move on. But something Meredith said about, and all of us can relate to, being isolated. I think that that was a challenge I have had for a long time. I'm wondering how we can help new members or prospective members feel this is where they want to be, and not just join, come in. People kind of see them here and there, but don't really get involved with them. You want to talk about that a bit, especially because now we're talking about membership renewal and things like that coming up. Anybody y'all find that as a group interesting? Any takers on that?
Carl,
Oh, and I will say the group has grown. Like I've been involved in NSA off and on for over 5 years, and never really, there were some times I didn't feel it served me and I didn't feel connected to it.
Mhm.
Now, the first time I feel more connected, I wouldn't say I'm a 10 out of 10, but I feel more connected. People have called me. I've called other people. I've had conversations, and things like that. Anyways, I think that for the group to thrive, it's really going to be important that people feel sort of what's their onboarding like.
Yeah. I think Leah is listening. I don't think she can speak. I wish she were able to contribute. And because of fact, she's somebody who is looking based on what I saw